Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly Starkey, fantasy story editor. And I edit, well, first I'd like to say that I edit all subgenres of fantasy. But in this video, I want to talk about setting the reader's expectations. So this is something that I see that sometimes happens with fantasy authors, and I think the same could be said for science fiction authors, is that you want to make sure your reader knows within the first chapter, or if your chapters are just very short, within those first couple of short chapters, that they are going to be reading a science fiction or a fantasy novel. Now, of course, you're going to have your cover, and your cover will probably reflect that, and so will the book description, but you can't count on your readers actually reading the entire book description, because a lot of readers don't. They may glance at the cover, think it looks interesting, maybe read like 1 or 2 lines of your book description, and then just download the sample or dive into the book. So just pretend that, what if a reader picked up your book and they didn't really pay attention to the cover, and they didn't pay attention to the book description, or let's say they did. They paid attention to the book description and the cover, and they start reading your book, and the cover and the beginnings of your book do not match. It doesn't meet your reader's expectations. So what you want to do is make sure that you are introducing something, a hint of something fantasy in those first chapter. You can outright mention vampires or werewolves or dragons, or you can hint that there is something magical or, supernatural, paranormal, otherworldly about your story in the first chapter. And that is enough to get the reader thinking, okay, she's hinting at this in the beginning, so she'll probably mention it later on in the story. So you want to make sure you hit that genre, or start hinting at your genre in the first chapter. Also, you want to set the tone of the story. You don't want to start off with a first chapter that has a lot of humor in it, and then the rest of the book goes very dark. It's going to set false expectations, and readers may not even buy it. After they read the sample, if they get to the part where it starts getting really dark, they're like, this is not the kind of story I thought it was. Or if it starts off dark and gets really lighthearted and humorous, then the reader might not like that, and you could get some bad reviews because of that. So I have a book here. Oh, here we go. It's by Octavia Butler. It is called let me get the title right. Adulthood Rites. So I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs to you to kind of show you what I mean about setting the tone of your story and the reader expectations. He remembered much of his stay in the womb. While there, he began to be aware of sounds and tastes that meant nothing to him, but he remembered them. When they reoccurred, he noticed. When something touched him, he knew it was, he knew it to be a new thing, a new experience. The touch was first startling, then comforting. It penetrated his flesh painlessly and calmed him. When it withdrew, he felt alone for the first time. When it returned, he was pleased, another new sensation. When he had experienced a few of these withdrawals and returns, he learned anticipation. He did not learn pain until it was time for him to be born. So right away, the tone of this story is very serious. It's going to be a very serious book, judging from this introduction that Octavia Butler is giving. Also, it's letting you know this could be speculative fiction. You're not sure if it's going to be maybe a paranormal, science fiction, fantasy, but you know it's going to be on the speculative spectrum. So that's how she introduces her story world. And she also raises questions in that introduction, like, how is he aware before, he is born? Is he going to remember all these things once he is actually born? What is he? I'm going to skip ahead. This is still the first chapter. There's exchange of dialogue that Octavia Butler uses to further let the reader know that this is going to be, let's say, science fiction. This is going to be a science fiction story. He's beautiful, one voice said. He looks completely human. Some of his features are only cosmetic, Lilith. Even now, his senses are more dispersed over his body than yours are. He is less human than your daughter's. I guess he would be, I know your people still worry about human-born males. They were an unsolved problem. I believe we solved it now. His senses are right, though. Of course. That's all I can expect, I guess, a sigh. Shall I thank you for making him look this way? For making him seem human so I can love him? For a while. So right there, this is towards the end of the first chapter. And the first chapter is only 2 pages. And already she's raised another question. She's letting you know, okay, the people who are speaking are not human. Talking about someone who is going to be human. Obviously, this is not the same type of world that we live in. There's a lot going on here that we as the readers don't know. Why is Lilith having him? Why does Lilith need him? Why is she going to love him for just a while? There's a lot of questions Octavia Butler raised in those first 2 pages of her story. But it really helps set the reader's expectations. Octavia Butler is more of a literary style writer. She writes science fiction and fantasy. Her books tend to be very serious. Not extremely serious, but they're usually serious. I've never, let me think. Have I read any of her books that are lighthearted? No, I've never read a lighthearted Octavia Butler book. There may be one, and if you do know of one, please mention it in the comments below. But I just wanted to make that quick video about setting expectations in the opening of your story, setting the tone, the genre, you know, what can the reader expect? Serious, lighthearted, sexy, action, adventure. You can have a lot of different types of tones in your story, but what one is going to be the main one? Whatever the main one is, because you can have a serious book with moments of humor, of course, but whatever the main tone of your story, you should open with that. And also let the reader know what type of story this can be, using hints or using dialogue, way Octavia Butler mentioning humans, letting you know that the people who are speaking are not human. So that is just a really quick video about setting reader expectations. I hope you found it helpful. What are you guys writing? I always like to know what people are working on. Leave that in the comments down below. I'm really interested in hearing what you guys are working on. Again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Holly Starkey, Fantasy Story Editor. I do a new video every day about editing. Not necessarily about editing, but about writing, writing tips, and sometimes about the editing process. Sometimes I do 2 videos a day. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.